Hi everyone, and my name is Kartik, as Anki said, and I work as a senior Android engineer at Pillow, and been working across uh, multiple domains so far. But this is something I kind of try and do every year, which is what's new in the new Android thing, and share it with the community because not everyone has the time um, during work to figure out what's new. So if somebody can get a consolidated view, why not? Uh, I'm just trying my best. Anywho, this is me. This is me trying to explain things to you. So getting started with this. This is the timeline of Android 14 as it looks right now. My investigation and most of the knowledge that I'm going to share here is from the March to April timeline, back when developer preview 2 and the first beta launched. As of today, the second beta has launched, but it hasn't come out with a lot of API changes. Uh, but the things that I'm going to talk about still remain true, and they will work if you're running Android 14 beta 2. Just a bit of disclaimer. Like I said, my investigation is based on Android beta 1 and Upside Down Cake Preview Revision 3, which is the emulator version of beta 1. Most of my development was done on Android Studio Giraffe Canary 7, but today I'm going to be using the Hedgehog version. If you guys don't know what it is, it's just different code names for the Canary version of Android Studio, which is the IDE recommended IDE used for Android app development. And I'm going to be talking about 6 features, and these are not all the features, but these are probably, in my opinion, the biggest changes so far. And in saying that, Android 14 compared to Android 12 is a very small upgrade. Um, and with that, I'm just going to dive into the first feature I want to talk about, and that's screenshot detection API. Google calls it a privacy preserving feature. I don't really see how it's preserving privacy because you're still able to take screenshot. And with this API, you just get a callback saying that a screenshot was taken and no other information is given to you. Um, but yeah, it's there. You might be wanting to use it. I know some OEMs have their own solution, and a few apps kind of build their own solution as well. But this is now an API available through the framework. The callback for this is at an activity level, and you need to declare this permission. It's not a runtime permission. You can just declare it in manifest. You don't have to request it at runtime. And this is the callback that they offer. So you can either implement that interface activity.screen capture callback at an activity level and then override on screen capture, or you can create an object like this and you'll just get informed that a screenshot was taken. And I'm going to just quickly show you the demo. Let me know if the screen sharing stops working or something as I switch my workspaces. Okay. So this is live. This is a live demo of what I've built. As usual, Android Studio is giving me issues, but that's okay. Right. So a quick note: this API only works if you're using the hardware screenshot shortcut combination, the power button and lower volume button. But this is an emulator because I don't have Android 14 on my physical device yet. So I'll have to send an ADB command for this, and the command is the key event 120. And if I send that, it takes a screenshot, and you see this little pop up over here. That's that's because of the callback, and that's what they show on the screen as well. Um, Basically tells you that this app has detected this screenshot. That's pretty much it. There's nothing else to it. So I really don't see how it's privacy preserving. Um, there is a flag which marks the screen as secure, so you can't take screenshots. That is more privacy preserving, in my opinion. But then again, Google's words, not mine. But yeah, you can just keep on taking screenshots as many times as you want, and it'll show the label over here. Okay. Moving on to the next API, and that's selected photo access. I'm assuming some of you, or at least the Android developers, are aware of the new photo picker and everything that has been making rounds everywhere. Um, this kind of builds on top of that, as well as the new permissions that were introduced in Android 13. The permissions were read media images and read media video. Um, this is Google's attempt to make sure that apps don't go rogue and start requesting things they don't really need, at least in terms of photos and videos, because things can go wrong. Um, so yeah, building on top of this, Android 14 introduces a new runtime permission, and it's called Read Media Visual User Selected. What that does is it kind of tells the framework that we only want to request selected access to photos or videos, not all of them. So the permission dialog kind of changes to this, and it shows you want to select photos, or do you want to allow all, or do you not want to allow at all? And it's user's choice. And what happens is if you select the photos, that read media images or read media permission is granted just for that particular session, and then it that gets declined again as soon as you're out of the media picker. And then every time you want to increase the scope of the images that you have access to, you'll have to request this permission again. And and again, just gonna quickly show you a demo of how this looks. So selected photo access. So photo picker looks like this. You don't require any permissions at all. You can just select whichever photos you want the app to show. No permissions requested, nothing required, and it works. But if you use the new permission dialog with the new permission, kind of looks like this. It says select photos and videos. So obviously the copy has changed between when I created those slides versus what I'm running now. And I can just, let's say, select these two photos. And they show up. And next time I try to run it, it kind of asks me, do you want me to allow more photos and videos on this device? Because I've already given it a small scope, but this time I'm requesting for a bigger scope. I can go ahead and do that. I select three more, and now all five of them are available here. And this will not happen again. It'll just assume that you want to increase the scope. And there you go. You have all six of them available now. And the scope of images is different to the photo picker because photo picker comes from an OS level, whereas the permission comes at an app level. So the scopes are different and interchangeable. They're not interchangeable. Okay, the next one is back gesture preview. This kind of made a debut in Android 13, where you could kind of test out what's happening with the new back gesture. You could play around with some APIs, but it wasn't final or it wasn't ready for what Google is visioning with the back gesture stuff right now. With Android 14, the stable release is expected to come with full predictive back gesture support. In a moment, I'll just show you what that really looks like. And it kind of shows you the preview or of the destination or the result of the gesture that you're going to take. So it could be if you're going back, what's the next screen? If you're trying to close a modal or something, what's behind it and things like that. And it allows the user to make a decision whether they want to actually go back or just stay in the current context. Um, and right now in Android 14 Beta 2, you still have to enable a developer flag in developer settings. And then in your application, you just have to add this small line, and then your app supports back gesture previews. In my investigation so far, it's only available at an activity level. So if you're working with Jetpack Compose navigation, it just still doesn't work yet. However, there's still scope for that. With Beta 2, they've released a few new APIs and functions with the back stuff. So I haven't tried that yet, so I don't know if that works with Compose or not. But this is what it looks like. So if you go to back gesture preview, this is a brand new activity. You can kind of see that it's giving me a preview of what's behind it, and I can make a decision. If I go farther enough and leave it, it'll complete the navigation. The second screen, which I showed you, selected photo access, it's just a Jetpack Compose navigation screen, and it doesn't work with it. Screenshot detection API is an activity, so if I go back, it'll work. And this is obviously another activity. If I go back, it'll show me that I'm going to be reaching the home screen after this. Um, Okay, moving on to the next one, and probably the biggest change I've found so far is the grammatical inflection API. What this does is, or what it's aiming at, is to improve how genders are reflected in a language, not necessarily English, but there are so many other languages which have different words, different nouns, and different ways of writing a sentence or writing even things in general if a gender changes. And the point is to make sure that they're representing the language correctly and the grammar is correct over there. So with this API, they introduced this new grammatical inflection manager as a system service. Um, like any other system service, you can get the system service object like this. At this point, they support four different type of inflections. One of them being neutral. Then the second one is feminine. Third is masculine, and gender not specified is when you haven't set the inflection for the app. These two new functions on the system service allowed you to set or get the inflection that you want. And ideally, let's say you're building an app and that app supports language French, and the user can decide whether they are inflected towards male or female. You would set the requested application inflection, and then I'm just going to show you how you can set up your strings and other things to make sure that your inflection just works. There's a thing to note though, as you set your inflection, your app will have an configuration change. So unless you manage the grammatical gender configuration by yourself in the app, the activity will get recreated. This sentence I've taken verbatim from the developer docs, so just be mindful of it if you're ever going to use this API. Um, Similar to how you set up buckets for different languages, you go one step further, and you would want to set up buckets in with these keywords neuter, masculine, feminine under different languages. And for the demo, I've used English, French, and Spanish as an example. Um, Again, let me quickly show you the demo. Grammatical inflection API. So right now it's defaults to English and neutral. That is what my app has set right now. If I change it to French, it'll show, whoops, sorry. It'll change it to the word for neutral in the French word for waiter in a neutral context, neutral inflection. And this is for masculine and this is for feminine. If you're a French speaker, maybe you can tell me if this sentence is right or wrong. I just use Google Translate, so it could be wrong. And for Spanish, works in a similar way. And interesting thing to note is that somehow my example worked out perfectly. When you're in a neutral inflection, the word is very different to a masculine or a feminine uh, word. So this is kind of showing what the Google's vision is with this API. They want to use the right word, they want to use the right context when it comes to a language, and they don't want to restrict it to just how English works. Okay. Next one, relatively small API change, but important and it's setting a foundation for the next few Android releases and app updates, I would say. And it's related to the custom share sheet that most apps help themselves, just to be able to have custom actions within those share sheets. And you can see that within Google Apps itself, they look very, very different, and there's just no consistency. So, in a bid to fix this going forward, what Google has done is with the intent chooser intent, they've added an API to add custom actions in there. Um, the actions can support icons, strings, and appending intent, and it can take an array of custom actions as an extra. So your share sheet can end up looking consistent, but still have custom actions to it. So hopefully more apps will adopt this, and we can have more consistent looking UI and experience for sharing across apps. Um, when you've created the intent using intent.createChooser, you just have to add this extra to the intent before you start that activity. All right, I'll show you the intent quickly. Custom intent and intent chooser. All right. Just as a demo, it's not actually sharing any images and it's just a fake data right now. But if I click on that, this is my share, the default OS7 share sheet. And this is my custom action. What I've set it to right now is if I click this, it should create a web search for Android 14 and it just triggers the pending intent and can search. But your action could be anything. It can be share a link, copy a link, and a plethora of things that your app would want to do. The idea is to get a consistent looking share sheet with custom actions. Okay. Um, Last but not the least, it's regional preferences. Um, what's happening with this one is there's a new screen in the settings activity or settings app of the Android 14 settings, lack of better words. You can manually now set your or override your local preferences. Things like temperature units, and you can have first day of the week. I know some Middle Eastern countries follow Sunday as the first day of the week, whereas Western countries follow Monday. So you can kind of switch between that if you are, let's say, traveling from A to B where things are different, but you still want to view it in your own locales way. You can override things, and your app, if it supports the API, will respect your changes. Temperature unit, as I mentioned before, there's number preferences in terms of how your numbers behave. There's no API to actually fetch the number preference right now. I'm not sure if it's going to be there in the stable release. Um, and then this is actually available and backported all the way to, I think, Android 14. I could be wrong. Through the Android Xcore library. And they introduced this new class called locale preferences, where you can get the calendar type, you can get first day of the week, you can get the hour cycle, and then you can also set the temperature unit. Okay, quickly jump to the demo. I'll have to uninstall and reinstall the app because I've messed around with the languages. So the locale is all broken right now. App, the app. Okay. So with regional preferences, this is the default. I haven't overridden anything, or maybe I have. It should be fine. Um, if I go to system languages and hit regional preferences, I have the option of temperature and first day of the week. Okay, it seems like things have changed between Android Beta 1 and Beta 2. This is how it used to look in Beta 1, and so it had number preferences, but it looks like it's gone. But yeah, you can update your temperature preference over here to Celsius. The default locale for an emulator is US, so it was showing Fahrenheit earlier. And let's say I want to set the first day of the week to Wednesday. Right. So obviously they need to make some things better. The tick mark is not very visible, but yes, you get the idea of what's happening here. And as I come back to the demo app, right, so this is probably why it's a beta. It's so stuck right now. Uh, and come on. Technical issues. There you go. Regional preferences, right. So it's read the actual preferences that I've set at an app level. Close the app. Temperature unit is now Celsius. Our cycle is 12. There's no API, there's no screen to change that right now. First day of the week comes out as red day. That's because what I'm doing, what they're sending is just the first three letters of um, the day itself, and I've just appended day at the end of it, and I did not unit test this properly. So unit testing is important. Please do that. And you can also just have a look at what kind of calendar is being set for regional preferences. Um, okay, that's the last API that I wanted to show. Quick recap. We talked about screenshot detection API, selected photo access, back gesture previews, grammatical inflection APIs, custom actions and intent users, and regional preferences. Um, this entire demo app is available on GitHub. I've written a two-part article on how to use this. QR codes if you want to scan and have a look. And that's about it. I'm open to questions now.
Thanks, Kartik. Any questions?
Can you hear us well from back there?
Sorry?
Can you hear us well from back here, Kartik?
Yeah, yep. I've just got my volume up now, so I can hear you clearly.
Okay. With the grammatical one, I wasn't quite sure how you end up using that. Do you just pretty much say, here's my string, like change this string to match gender in
Yeah, I'm
verbs,
really
etc.?
fascinated with that one.
Right. Good question. I'll quickly show you how I've set it up in my app. Actually, let me increase the font size quickly. Okay, so what I have here is strings in bucket for different languages, and then as you would set any other string. Why is the font size not large? Is this visible enough for everyone, or I can?
No.
No, it's still too small.
My bad. Better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. So as you would set any other string, you would have the ID and the actual value of it, and that would remain consistent across any bucket that you have, right? And then at a where did it go? Yeah, at a code level, all you're doing is just just telling the app that I'm changing my inflection now. Come on, go away. Good. Then the change should be some code here. Grammatically. Right, I'm not able to find the code right now, but yeah, like I said, you take the system uh, service and you change the language over there. Where did it go though? Not in the view model. Maybe it's in the activity. Right, there it is. So you set the requested application grammatical gender. So it could be one of those neutral, masculine, feminine, or not specified. As you click those buttons in the UI, UI preview is not showing up. Fine here. As you click the buttons, what it does is it tells the view model's live data that things have changed, and I've as the value comes back at the activity level, it tells um, the grammatical inflection manager that this has happened. And what I've also done is I've handled the config change here. So grammatical gender config change has been handled already. And because I'm also changing the languages, I've gone ahead and handled these two as well. But these two are not relevant for grammatical inflection. It's only this one. So my activity doesn't restart, but I manually tell my code to update the language and then kind of redraw the screen as the config changes. This should be on config change somewhere. Yep. No, I can't remember how I do it, but yeah, as the config changes, the composable screen kind of restarts and sets the right string from the right bucket. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions?
Yeah, like, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, like this is more like a question for your opinion more than anything. So like it's pretty interesting everything with the grammatic API, but like nowadays with the artificial intelligence and everything, do you reckon like the new versions of Android and everything will actually connect to the artificial intelligence and just like send the text and translate it to whatever language I want, and have it straight away?
That's an interesting one. Uh,
I mean, like,
I mean,
what are your thoughts on the subject, actually?
yeah, I would prefer that Google doesn't do that and let developers or product managers or whatever the decision makers to decide what the app needs to do. It's good that they've got support for multiple languages and then inflections within the language itself. But uh, just automatically going and updating things as you, let's say, move around the world, you change a region, and then the app starts showing you things according to the region, that might be a bit of an overkill. I, for one, wouldn't want that to happen. For example, I'm in China, for example, and I have no idea how to read or write or even speak Mandarin. But if my phone starts forcing things on me, it's going to get difficult. So I would like for my device or my app to support that I switch to Mandarin or switch from Mandarin to my own locale if possible. Um, but yeah, my opinion would be let's hope Google doesn't use this upon us. Um, that being said, I wouldn't mind if I add the AI smarts, but let me decide if I want to switch to that, and then they use the AI smarts over there to maybe translate things and automate things there. That would be cool. Um, I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, so,
No problem.